Hello to you, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley. It's about 9 o'clock here on our Thursday evening. Hopefully you're doing all right. Of course, we're in storm mode at this point, getting ready for our system, which is on the way and yet to come to the Carolinas still. But unfortunately, there's no really avoiding this system. It's going to touch almost everybody in the Carolinas. We've got a winter storm watch for our area, of course, and we're going to notice that there's just so many impacts from the mountains to the Piedmont to the even almost to the coast. It's a wide-ranging system and one that's gripping a big chunk of the country too. So we're tracking this over a large area. Thanks for joining us. We're going to chat here for the next 10 to 15 minutes about everything going on and all that we're expecting. The main message here hasn't changed. Bottom line, as we go through the weekend, Saturday afternoon is when it starts. It'll is really just ice for Sunday afternoon. I do recommend here you should be prepared to be stuck where you are for a couple days. Reason being, it's going to be very difficult to move about the area. Could be a lot of trees down in the roads, power outages and the like. Those are issues that we're just going to have to deal with. It's been a while since we've had an ice storm in the Carolinas, but this is one that we're having to track for you this weekend. And as next week continues to be bitter cold, that's going to be a big problem. Going to be a big problem for us. Where is the storm system? Got a couple of questions about this. Where is the storm right now? And it's a good question because actually, if you just looked on the wide view, you wouldn't really see one right off the bat. But sure enough, it's way over here, spinning right now off the coast of Southern California. In fact, over the last couple of days, there have been a couple of Hurricane Hunter missions into that low pressure, spinning right there to try and learn more about the system. And that's very helpful to us, obviously, because it gives us new data that we can include in our forecast. So anyway, that's where the system is right now. It's got a long way to go, all the way across the country here as we go through the next several days. It's not too far away, but we're still about 2 to 3 days out, right? So about 2,000 miles out to our west, there is the storm just starting to get going. So the setup we've talked about quite a lot. We have a lot of cold air available to us. And over the next couple of days, that cold air is going to get met up with some moisture from the south. So the cold air is going to arrive from the north into our area. We still have an easy enough day to go around tomorrow. If you still have stuff that you want to get done and complete for preparations, you sure can do that. That's a good day to do it, would be tomorrow. But also, even on Saturday, we're likely to be pretty dry for Saturday morning and into Saturday afternoon. It's not really until Saturday evening that a lot of this starts to get going, and Sunday is going to be the day. So Sunday is the day where everything starts to really get iced up and we have big problems and could start to have power issues and stuff that's going to linger with us heading into next week. But we still have some time. We still do have some time. Let's take a little bit of a closer view of the Carolinas here. And again, there are still some forecast questions. What we're sure of is that as we go into the weekend, we're going to have a period of brief snow and then a lot of mixed precipitation. The biggest wild card in the forecast still is how much do we have sleet? How much do we have ice, the freezing rain? That breakdown will determine who has more power outages and who has worse road conditions. They're kind of both a give and take. But here's your futurecast. Look at the timing on this top of the screen. Saturday, 8 o'clock in the morning. So we're early on still in this system. Notice how cold it is, though. Temperatures are in the low 20s and teens. And really throughout the day here, we just don't warm up hardly at all. So if we go back here, let's kind of back this thing up. This would be around 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. That would be about the earliest that we could start to see stuff. But probably at that point, it's still a little too dry to get precipitation. At this stage, Saturday afternoon, let's say you're a parent and you've got kids who are dying to see some snow. Saturday afternoon is for you. That's your option. It's not a guarantee, but there is still an opportunity Saturday afternoon that you could be catching some snowflakes. Notice, though, what our model is showing. It's almost seeing that dryness to the air. You see how it's kind of feathery? That's kind of how it starts usually. So possible to have some snow showers Saturday afternoon, more likely to have some snow showers as a chance Saturday evening. But that purple color here, that purple shade, that's sleet. And that sleet moving into our area Saturday evening, that puts an immediate stop to any snow accumulation. You're never going to get the snow back once you switch over to sleet. And that continues and kind of takes over going into Sunday night. Now, at this point in time, we're really sweating it out. To me, it's very important, what time do we switch from sleet over to freezing rain? And the reason I say that, the longer we have freezing rain with the storm, the better chance we'll have of power outages. So right now, our model is saying, hey, at 4 a.m. on Sunday, you're still having sleet. And by 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., that's when we're getting nervous, because at that point, we could already start to have some freezing rain in our area. And notice how cold it is. Temperatures are still in the low 20s. And our model, it only reaches out to about 4 p.m. or actually only to about 1 p.m. so far. And at that point in time, you still have a ways to go with the system. The system is not done. It doesn't end at that point. So we still have a ways to kind of go there. But we would be getting a lot of ice and a lot of sleet in that setup. You can kind of see here, if we zoom everything out, there's still a long ways to go with that storm system at the end of this model run. So we've got some trouble. We've got some problems that I'm expecting. I can go on a little bit of a closer view here for you if you'd like. This is a local view, of course. There's Saturday afternoon. Here's the switch over to sleet Saturday evening. Sleet continues into Sunday morning. And then we're switching over to freezing rain pretty quickly sometime on Sunday. And that leads us to ice problems. Ice problems seem to be a pretty big, a pretty sure bet, is what I mean to say. So the impacts of the system are going to be nasty. Very large impacts of ice, big impacts from travel, big impacts from power. All of those are issues. All of those are issues that we're going to have to deal with, not just through Sunday, but we'll have to deal with those through the weekend, through early next week as well, is what I meant to say. I can show you the storm in another way. This is from one of the computer models that we use. You might be familiar. It's called the GFS model. I've put two lines on the screen with this one. The yellow line is the 32-degree line above our heads at about 3,000 feet. The purple one is the 32-degree line at the surface. And you can see that's the reason that we're having all of this icy precipitation. It keeps things going basically all the way through midnight. So we have a long way to go before the storm is over. And that's why I really expect we're going to have some heavy amounts of ice. So unfortunately, our ice map might even need to be adjusted upward a little bit. And it's already pretty high, but we're expecting between a quarter of an inch, a half an inch of ice. And the bullseye area from Raleigh to Asheboro to Charlotte could even be higher than that. So you might see over half an inch of ice in some of those areas. Anytime you get significant icing of a quarter of an inch or more, you almost always have problems. And so this is worse than that by a lot. So pretty much all of us in our area are going to have enough ice to have problems. And it's just a question of how bad are the problems. So just to recap for you and kind of rehash this, freezing rain issues look like this. They can be minor, moderate, or severe. If you get less than a quarter of an inch, it tends to be more of a nuisance. You're probably going to have tricky travel, but you're probably not going to have every ice road in the area. You're also probably not going to have too many trees come down. Once you get over a quarter, that's when you can start to see trees breaking, the branches come down, causing problems. And severe damage, over half an inch of ice, that's when whole trees can get uprooted, fall over roads. The roads are treacherous, you can't really get around, and you have widespread power outages. We're deciding between Category 2 and Category 3 at this point. And so we really expect there are going to be some harsh conditions around the area for travel, but also when it comes to power outages. Sorry to say, but there are going to be a lot of power outages going into the weekend. So there'll be some big issues across the area. Power outage is the biggest concern, I think, and also the road conditions. So if you're going to ride out this storm, what you got to do, make sure you've got some sources of heat if you can. A fireplace is great. It's a good option if you have it. Staying with somebody, that would be a good thing to choose. So whoever has the fireplace is maybe a good place to be. If you don't have that, you're going to have to keep yourself warm to some extent, because early next week, we're dealing with Arctic air pushing into the area. So the storm ends Sunday night, but we're still seeing problems Monday into Tuesday, and maybe beyond that. Those problems deal with the cold mornings. And those mornings look to be really cold around the area. I mean, we're looking at temperatures that we maybe haven't seen in quite a while. So going into Monday night, the air temperatures are going to be bitterly cold. And then by early Monday morning, we could see air temperatures that are right around the freezing mark. Right around zero even. I think that might be a little extreme, but that's kind of what we're dealing with. And so that's spooky to see that on the map. I'm not sure if I completely buy the extent of the cold on this particular model, but I'm just saying that to let you know we're in trouble going into cold weather early next week. So we're going to still have this sleet accumulation on the ground of 1 to 2 inches, maybe 2 to 3 inches, depending on where you are. That's the base. We've got an icy crust on top of that, trying to move about the area. You probably have downed trees and this crusty, sleety mess. It's just not a good situation. There's no real way to escape this system without bad impacts. And so as much as we talk about how much sleet, how much ice, it's going to be bad either way. And I just want to make sure you're taking it seriously. We're not here to scare you. We're not here to panic you or anything like that. But, I'll tell you, I'm concerned. I am concerned about this, and I think there are going to be some issues we're going to have to deal with for a while. So timeline looks like this. Saturday, dry most of the time, but afternoon, you start to get some snow. And then that snow switches to sleet pretty quickly, especially moving into Saturday night. Travel gets to be bad. And on Sunday, that's when you start to mix in freezing rain, and it changes to all freezing rain for the afternoon, and we could have an ice storm, meaning down trees and down power lines. Sunday night, we'll start to see this come to an end, but the problems will remain. The problems will remain. We've extended our weather impact alert going into next week because I think the after part of the storm might be just as bad as the during part of the storm. We don't see this kind of weather all that often, but very cold mornings are still on the way for us. And we'll be keeping you up to speed every step of the way. Hourly cut-ins will continue here on WFMY Plus. Our next one coming up at 10 o'clock.